Hey, it's Donna, your Columbus Real Estate Partner, and I am back for week 8 of the Confident Seller series, where I am diving in my ebook, Selling Your Home for the First Time. We are going over each chapter, breaking it all down, sharing some nuggets, some wisdom for you, the consumer. If you are thinking about selling your home today, next week, next month, next year, I hope that you will join me and taking a look at the book, as well as tuning into these weekly series where I deep dive selling your home for the first time. It's week 8, it's July 22nd, and we are going to jump right into chapter 8. But first, as I start every week, I go through the introduction, which comes directly from my book. Selling your home is one of the biggest financial decisions that you will ever make, and doing it right the first time can save time, money, and stress. Yet, first-time sellers don't know where to begin. This guide is here to change that. Created for homeowners across the country, it breaks down every step of the process, from preparing your property to negotiating offers and closing the sale. This book is also designed to be timeless. No matter what market you are in, these strategies will guide you through confidently. With 27 years in real estate, I have helped hundreds of homeowners navigate the home selling process with smooth closings, the unexpected plot twist, and the joyful handoff of the keys at the closing table. You are going to learn how to prepare your home for the best return, how a realtor protects your financial interests, why pricing is both an art and a science, what makes a home irresistible to buyers, how to evaluate offers with clarity and confidence, and ways to time your sale with your next home purchase. Selling a home isn't just about putting a sign in the yard, it's about strategy, experience, and smart decisions. Let's jump into it. Chapter 8, showings, open houses, and managing buyer interest. So, once marketing does its job, buyers will begin touring your home. This is where preparation meets reality, and how you handle this stage can significantly influence both offer quality and the final price. So showings aren't just visits, they are decision-making moments for buyers. So when a buyer comes to your house, if they are ready, they have talked to their lender, they've met with a buyer, a realtor, and they are out looking at houses. So when they get to your house, you want your house to be ready. Why do showings matter? Because buyers decide how they feel about your home within minutes. And a positive showing experience can build emotional connection. It encourages longer visits. It leads to stronger offers and reduces hesitation. Buyers always ask, when will I know? How long is it going to take me to find the right house? I don't know the answer to how long it's going to take, but what I do know, and I've experienced this over 27 years, is that you know when you walk into the house, there's something about that house that says, yeah, Donna, this is the one. So your goal as a seller is to remove friction so that buyers can focus on imagining themselves living in your space. So how do you do that? First, you want to be flexible with your showings. I prepare sellers all the time that buyers are going to want to see your house in a minute's notice. They could be on a showing with their realtor looking at another house around the corner, and they see your sign in the yard. They're going to pick up the phone. They're going to call showing service to see if they can get into your house, if they can add your house to the list. And what you don't want to do, if at all possible, is to decline a showing request. You want to be ready. When your house hits the market, you want to be ready whenever a buyer says they want to see it, as long as it's reasonable. From 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. possibly. There are times where, depending on your situation, that you can't allow showings after a certain hour. We get it. But the point is, once your house hits the market, if a buyer can't get in to see it, there are chances that they're not going to reschedule. They're just going to go off to the next house. And they're possibly going to write an offer on that other house because you did not allow them to get into your house for whatever the reason is. And just know that I know that there are times where a seller may not be able to confirm a showing, but the goal is to always confirm a showing once your house is on the market. So be flexible with your showings. The easier it is to see your home, the more buyers you attract. This means accommodating short notices when possible, allowing evenings and weekends, and keeping the home show ready, which I love to say. More access, more buyers, more leverage. There are times where I've seen houses where you can only see the house on the weekends. Well, if a buyer has to wait until the weekend to see your house and they've got Monday through Friday to look at other houses, the chances are that when the weekend comes, they're in contract already. So your house is not going to be seen. So if at all possible, be more flexible and allow showings throughout the week. Create a welcoming experience. So before each showing, if you can, turn on the lights. Set a comfortable temperature inside the house. Open up the blinds and the curtains. Use light, natural scents if you're using air fresheners. Small details can shape the buyer's perception of your property. And so if you are leaving for the day to go to work and you haven't had any showing requests the night before, it's very possible that you're going to get some showings while you're at work. So if you can, and if you're okay with that, you leave the house every day, leave the lights on, open up the curtains if you can, just to make the property warm and inviting for those unexpected buyers you did not know was going to ask to see your house while you were at work. So make it easy for buyers to fall in love. Give them the space to explore. So remove distractions, especially pets, if you can. So buyers should focus on the home and not your lifestyle. So before showings, if possible, remove pets, hide pet bowls and crates and litter boxes, and eliminate pet odor. Even pet lovers may hesitate if they're distracted by a strong smell of pet odor. And by all means, sellers, we love you, but we don't want you there when we're showing your house. We want you gone. We want buyers to be able to walk through and feel comfortable saying whatever it is they want to say positively about the space. So buyers, they stay longer when they can explore more freely when sellers are not present. And so being away from the house, it reduces pressure, it encourages honest reactions, and it helps buyers to visualize themselves living there. And so your realtor will represent your interest during the showing. And a lot of times, depending on the property, your realtor, the seller's realtor, will either be there, accommodate, open up the door for the buyer's agent. And a lot of times that happens with higher end properties for whatever reason. Sellers sometimes are not comfortable just letting a realtor that they don't know just come through their house. And so sometimes that is a request of the seller. Not always, but again, your realtor is going to represent your interests during the showing. Open houses create energy and urgency. We talked about that last week. So open houses serve multiple purposes. It increases exposure, it creates buzz, and it encourages competition, and it allows buyers to tour casually. So the first 7 to 10 days are ideal for maximizing the impact of your listing. So a strong open house often leads to follow-up showings and offers. So I've been to open houses. I had a buyer that was relocating here from out of state, and I was going to the showings for them doing virtually video in the property, and I walked into an open house, and man, it was busy, and the house was beautiful, and I knew it was going to go fast. It was going to have multiple offers, and it was going to go above list price, and I was right. It went probably $50,000 over. My buyers, they found the right house, but that one was one that they were interested in. But I had to let them know that one was not going to be the one for them because it went way over what they were comfortable with. And it was just a whole lot of competition. But that's just what buyers have to deal with. It is what it is. That's the name of the game. But managing multiple showings and buyer interests. And so if showings are consistent, your realtor is going to track that. You'll be able to get a report from your realtor. You're going to know whenever someone is coming into your house. But that feedback, you're going to want to ask your realtor for that. And again, not all realtors are providing feedback from their buyer. And sometimes, and I'll say this just in defense of some realtors who don't provide feedback. If we're in a market where we are showing 6 houses to our buyer clients, sometimes we don't always get the feedback from the buyer for each and every property. Sometimes it's a couple days after, and we've literally forgotten what the buyer said about house A or house B or house D. And the feedback that we may present will just be generic. First buyers first time out, they're not ready to make an offer. So that's feedback, but not really the feedback that's going to benefit you as a seller. So don't be upset if you don't get feedback. What I always say to my sellers, if they were interested in it, they would have written an offer. And so, again, that's not the feedback that you want, but just don't be upset if you don't get feedback at all. But if showings are consistent, your realtor is going to track the frequency, buyer feedback, agent comments, and then those second showings that do occur sometimes. So this data just helps to determine the next steps on whether to hold firm on the price that you're at, make adjustments through your presentation, or prepare for negotiations. And so, moving on, capturing and using feedback strategically. So every showing provides insight. The fact that we got someone in the house is a good thing. And then that feedback helps to identify if there are any pricing concerns, any condition issues that we need to discuss further, any layout objections. When I think of layout, the way a home is built, the size of the rooms, you can't change that. You're not going to knock down a wall to make a room bigger for a buyer once your property's on the market. So the things that you can adjust, repair, fix, you can do that, if it makes sense. But those feature gaps compared to other competitors, say for instance, your home is a 3-bedroom, you got 2,000 square feet, but you only have 3 bedrooms, and the house across the way has 4 bedrooms in the same number of square footage. It's not going to be possible to add a fourth bedroom just to compete with the other. And so you have to compete how you can compete. So you want to compete on the features that you have in your house. You want to compete on the style and the features and just making the home light, airy, bright, fresh for the buyer. You can compete where you can compete. Like we talk about location. You can't pick up your house and move it somewhere else. So if the feedback is, oh, I wish the house was in a different location. Well, what I would think for buyers that if you were concerned about the location, then you probably shouldn't have looked at this house in the first place. However, we can't pick the house up and move it. So we have to worry about as a realtor, and when I'm talking to my sellers, is the seller has to focus on the things that they can actually fix and mitigate for a buyer. The things that you can't change, you can't worry about. So the goal isn't to react emotionally, it's to respond strategically. Avoid show fatigue. So if you have many showings with little follow-up, no offers, something needs to be adjusted. We kind of talked about that last week. And your realtor can help you do that. You don't want to react emotionally. You want to be strategic with it. And so the fact that you had show fatigue, it usually points to price, condition, and then just aligning it with marketing. And so early thoughtful adjustments protect momentum. Price and condition. If you don't get the feedback, typically if your house is overpriced, that's the feedback that most realtors and buyers don't hesitate to give. House is overpriced for whatever reason. They feel like it's overpriced, or maybe it truly is overpriced. Condition. I looked at a house last week with buyers, and these buyers are ones that are okay with a fixer to a degree. Woo, was this house a fixer? It was a fixer, and the moment we walked in the door, I had to hold my breath because the smell was so bad. And that was the feedback that I gave, is that the house smelled awful, and it did. And maybe that's not what the seller wanted to hear, but the seller needed to hear that. And if there's a way that they could somehow get that smell out of the house, it would behoove them to do so, because my buyers they overlooked the all of the stuff and the issues and the things that needed to be repaired and the layout, but they couldn't get past the smell. And the one thing was, how are we going to get the smell out of the house? And there are ways to do that. I mean, but it was bad. And we took that house off the list. And so take care of the things that you know you can take care of. And the other thing too is, put yourself in the shoes of the buyer. Imagine, there are times where I have actually done a preview of a listing for a seller client so they could see what the competition looks like, because there are times, sellers, where you can be a little bit unreasonable and you don't want to listen to your realtor, and you have to see it for yourself to say, okay, yeah, you're right, we probably shouldn't price it here, we should listen to you. Reality, sometimes you have to take them there, but you want to put yourself in the buyer's shoes sometimes and realize that your house may not be where you would like it to be, and just price it accordingly. So what your realtor is doing behind the scenes during the stage, your realtor is communicating with the buyer's agent. They are gauging the interest level of the buyer, advising on timing, and leveraging different things based on what you need, what you would like to get out of the sale, what your next steps are, where you're going, and how you like to get there based on the offer. And this guidance will help you stay ahead of the market and not behind it. So my final thoughts on that is, buyers, they don't just tour houses, they experience them. And so the goal, of course, is to get the buyers in the house and then let them experience what you've experienced by living there. And sometimes we'll have sellers who will, kind of write a letter to the prospective buyer, and it kind of explain what it was about the house that they loved, why they decided to buy it, why they've enjoyed it for the past however many years that they lived there. And that does something to a buyer, and it kind of helps them to settle in, especially if the home is show ready and you've prepared it and you've taken care of it and you've done the necessary repairs and upgrades and things that you needed to do to get it to the market. Buyers are going to love that. And so they don't want to just tour it, they want to experience it. And so when showings are comfortable, easy, distraction free, and strategically managed, buyers connect emotionally and they act with confidence. They feel that, yes, this is the house for me, even if they do an inspection and there's some things that come up. What they experienced in that house, the feeling that they got from that house, they're like, you know what? I'm okay with those few things that came up on the inspection. We'll deal with that. Those are not deal breakers for us, because the feeling that we have, we see ourselves here, and we want to make an offer on the property, and we want to stay in contract on the property. Once they've gotten in contract, they want to stay in contract. So your goal is to make every showing feel effortless, warm, and memorable, because that's where strong offers begin. If a buyer walks in and they can see themselves there, 9 times out of 10, they're going to get with their realtor to help them make a strong offer, to write a strong offer, to present all of the things that are going to help you say, yes, this is the buyer that I want, and things will just be smooth sailing from there. That's what we want at the end of the day. Especially if you get an offer, you want to keep that offer. You want to keep that buyer in contract. And so what I talked about last week, one way of doing that is to do that pre-listing home inspection so that you get ahead of their home inspection. Because once you get into contract and once you get a buyer to say, yes, this is the house I want, you want to keep that buyer in contract if at all possible. And so realtors work together to try to make sure that that can happen. All righty, that was week 8, chapter 8. I hope you got something out of that. Showings, open houses, and managing buyer interests. Next week, what are we talking about next week? Next week, evaluating offers. It's more than just the price. Yes, you want to get the best price, but you also want those terms to come together as well. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. Thank you for joining me through the Confident Seller Series Week 8. I will see you next week. Donna Jackson, your Columbus Real Estate Partner.